Check, check. Okay. Everybody can hear my voice. Maybe you can switch off your headset, Miss.
Anybody can hear my voice?
Yes, yes, it's really now.
Okay. Referring to the statement from Mrs. Nurul from Malaysia, maybe there is a connection with your, I hope there is a connection between your presentation, Ms. Amni. There is so many issue and challenges from SMS side for financing them, according to the Prof. Nurul, such as collateral, lack of document, and no financial report. I believe this happened to all SMA in Malaysia or Indonesia, or maybe in Brunei Darussalam. So my question is, what is the special treatment from IV SMS to give an aid after the COVID-19 pandemic, that showing the special characteristic from IV to help SMA for empowering their business? That's my first question. And the second is, the government give help to the SMEs, so many was that donation or discounts, something like big help to the SMA, but I don't want. I'm so curious. Where is the government money from for helping the SMEs? Is that any backup from the government, or any loan from government to other country? Something like, what's that? Like no, I mean from other country. Yes, World Bank, like that. Yeah, that's my two questions for Mr. Amni. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Amni, maybe you can answer this.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator. Thank you, Ms. Molly, and also Mr. Akbar. So if I may reiterate, Mr. Akbar, you wanted to know how do we balance compliance and also Sharia principles, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah. Correct?
Yes,
yeah? Correct, Mr. Akbar?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So when you say balance of compliance and Sharia principles, probably what I can actually take from your question is the fact that you wanted to ensure, both sides of the coin is being protected. Yeah, so financial institutions still get the profit, and also in order for the customers to actually have a win situation. Yeah, meaning that it's not just the institutions that gets the profit, but severely it's been affecting the customer. So when we talk about compliance and Sharia principles, it still goes back to how well established a particular Islamic financial institution is. And this goes back to the main element, which is the Sharia Advisory Board. For us, the people who sits in banks of Islamic banks would be the one that drives the entity or the operation of how the banks would operate Sharia compliantly. Okay, so meaning that whatever you put into the gist or the nature of a particular bank, it still goes back to the main core itself, the people who actually sit in these boards and make decisions for these boards, because these are the people who gives advices. These are the people who gives yeses and nos, people who gives the dalil, for example, on particular matters of modern products. So when you talk about compliance and Sharia principles, usually when it comes to meeting of the Sharia board members or the BOD of a particular Islamic institutions, I'm sure it's very much prevailing in all countries as well. These people would know when do you actually go for profit, but at the same time ensure that the customer or the consumer are still protected. Yeah, so these are the things that needs to be done. Okay, these are the core elements. These are the things that you need to do first. Because if you go for profit, regardless of anything, but you do not take into consideration your customers and also your consumers, that's just merely saying that you're not even establishing the maqasid aspect of finance itself. If we go back to the maqasid Sharia, the main objective of finance is definitely for, hifzul mal, for example, and it translates that to other main cause, which is hifzul mal, hifzul deen. So when you protect the property, you at the same time are protecting your nasal, because you have the money now or from the financing to actually cater for your family, or you now have a car from the car financing to actually go to work, for example. So it's definitely hifzul deen, hifzul mal, hifzul nasal, all interrelated. So if the main core of a bank doesn't think of this particular aspect and thinks of profit over anything else, then that's just merely, there's no compliance, there's no Sharia compliance. And talking about Sharia principles, how can you talk about Sharia compliance when you don't take into consideration the Sharia principle, which is the maqasidic aspect itself? So I think that's the main core, Akbar, Mr. Akbar. In terms of operating costs, you were talking about operating expenses and also operating profits, right? So again, expenses, initially when we started Islamic banking, a lot of people were saying, Islamic banks are just merely copying the conventional. You are far more expensive than the conventional, which was true before this, because we had double stamp duties, for example. But now in some countries, there's exemption of double tax duties for financing. Why are we expensive? Because sometimes, you have to sign off different types of documentation, and that requires a lot of administration fees. So these are the things that you need to take into consideration as well. But when it comes to profit and also expenses, it should not be something that, you should think of as sacrificing, because, when you sacrifice profit for the sake of consumer protection or for your consumers, you are being fair. You are being fair to your consumers, because that's the main element of hifzul mal, hifzul deen, and also other democratic aspects as well. So I hope that answers you, Mr. Akbar. Mr. Akbar, are you okay? Yeah.
Thank you for the answer. Very helpful for me.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Mr. Akbar. Okay, now let's address Miss Molly. So Miss Molly, you were saying about MSMEs. The problem was lack of documentation, financial reports, and also, what is that?
Collateral.
Yeah, collateral. So for this one, so what is the special treatment for IFIs after the COVID-19? So perhaps what we can suggest, for IFIs is that to be more, as I've mentioned earlier, to be more, transgress beyond financial. Yeah, so help these MSMEs aside from financing, give them trainings, for example, give them mentorships. I do know that BIBD, as the Islamic Bank in Brunei, they do provide trainings for single mothers, for MSMEs to be on board for a certain period of time, where they will teach the single mothers on how would you do a financial report, how would you know or which documents that you need to sign off, okay? And then how would you know which one to deduct first if you are going to pay your employees? And then how are you going to calculate your daily expenses so that you know that this is the profit, this is your clean profit, and then this is the profit that you get, that you need to get for the next 5 years, for example. So these are the things that you need to train them. Yeah, because it's not going to be a one-off, just giving them the financing. That will not just help them to prosper and also make them robust throughout. COVID-19 is maybe one of the things in this millennium. We don't know what will happen in the next 5 years or 10 years or even the next year. So we want them to be ready. We want them to be adaptable, okay, to the current environment, to the financial environment, so that they would stay afloat regardless of anything. So we want them to have the financial literacy. We want them to be able to be independent. Yeah, regardless, there are single mothers, there are youth, for example, because for Brunei, we are diversifying the economy so that these sectors are being occupied by the youth, because we want them to be ready. We want them to be independent in order to achieve the vision that we have for 2035. We don't want them to be, just government sector driven. We want them to be thinking out of the box. We want them to be the next generation. Yeah, to be able to foresee things, and then to be able to be leaders of tomorrow. So we don't want to just, be within the confine of the government sector. Another thing that you mentioned was on the money. Yes, Ms. Wale, correct? The government help in terms of monetary wise. Yeah. I'm not so sure if you know that our main export is oil and gas. So we're very much dependent on oil and gas. So you can say we are the Southeast Asia of Saudi Arabia. Can we say that? So most of the money comes from the government. So when the financial interim measures, as I've mentioned to you during the first wave and also second wave, are being rolled out and announced, those are definitely coming from the government. And when we say the government, it's the Brunei government, and that is His Majesty the Sultan Haji Hassan Bolkiah Muizzuddin Wad Daulah. So when we talk about the government, it's the government's money. So we, Alhamdulillah, so far we don't have any form of loans or any form of money exchanges with IMF or other countries, but thus far it is within the sources and also monetary sources of the country itself. So yeah, I think that sums up the question. I hope that answers you, Ms. Molly.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Amnisa.
Thank you, Ms.
clear.
Molly.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you.
Akbar and Ms. Molly, and of course, Dr. Amila. Shame of because it's a pity because we have limited time. Yeah. I want to talking about everything. Yeah, I'm sorry we have a limited time. It's very interesting, yeah, about the COVID. Even though we have normal situation, but COVID is very casuistic, yeah, casuistic pandemic, because it's influence our world, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't mind, Dr. Amila, don't go anywhere because we still have another event. Ya. Oke, ya, saya mau mengumumkan kepada partisipan yang sudah aktif, ya, Prodi Ekonomi Syariah punya sesuatu yang sangat menyenangkan untuk yang sudah aktif dalam berpartisipasi dalam seminar internasional ini, ya, kepada Bapak Toto. Ya, kepada Bapak Toto, kepada Mas Rafiki, Ibu Sugiyati Ningsi, kepada Mas Akbar, dan kepada Ibu Molly, mohon menghubungi Miss Iva, ya, ya, menghubungi Miss Iva untuk mengambil hadiah. Ya, terima kasih untuk berperan aktif dalam seminar ini. Oke, this is the last step of the list. Yeah. Thank you very much for Miss Amnisuhailah for the last speaker. Let me give the conclusion about this. What is this? Is conference? Yeah. Because MSMEs have essential and strategic role to the availability of employment and increase in GDP in the form of symbiotic economic mutualism for all parties. However, MSMEs still have obstacles both in terms of the financing and developing their business In terms of financing, many MSMEs sectors still need help obtaining credit from banking or another financial institution due to technical constraints such as needing more collateral and access to bank information, because MSMEs have asymmetric information. Yeah, there's a lot of cases like that. Comprehensive support from financial institution is needed to encourage community empowerment, primarily micro, small, and medium enterprises, because financing to MSMEs, either banks or financial institution, is the most important thing so that MSMEs can advance. It's applied in general both like in Malaysia, in Brunei, Darussalam, and the rest of the world, because we have the similar.
Okay, thanks to all speakers and also the moderator who has guided this main agenda. And congratulations for active participants for being active in the middle or during this event. Hope you all participants are able to catch some points to play our role in economic issues after pandemic. As our gratitude, we would like to give the certificate to all speakers for your willingness to collaborate with Universitas Muhammadiyah Bandung and your participation to be the speakers today. And for the committee, please help me to show the e-certificate. Okay, this is the first certificate of appreciation. Here we give the certificate for Associate Professor Dr. Nurul Aini Muhamed as a speaker for today's event. Thank you so much for your coming and joining here. And the second certificate of appreciation will be give to Dr. Cecep Taufikurrohman as a speaker. Thank you so much for Dr. Cecep Taufikurrohman as a speaker for today's event. And the last but not least, this is the certificate of appreciation for Dr. Amnisuhailah binti Abrahan as a speaker for today's event. Thank you so much and million thanks for you. And yeah, I would like to say, may Allah always bless you all. And thank you for being the speaker for today. And it's really grateful and also having you here to be one of the part of this event. Thank you so much. Finally, we come to the end of this event. Before closing, I would like to tell you, I am as the representation of committee today, would like to apologize for some mistakes during the event. I really appreciate of your coming and your nice attention. I hope we will meet again in the upcoming event and have a nice day. Lastly, I close this event by wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Recording stopped.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can leave one by one from this room of Zoom. And congratulations for all participants who have grabbed or achieved some percent from Sharia Economy study programs.
Thank you so much, M.Si. Thank you so much, Madam Moderator.
Thank you so much. Most welcome.